Hit Me Hard and Soft is out. This marks Billie Eilish's third album and possibly her second album of the year Grammy winner. I haven't connected with the record this instantaneously in 3 years. 10 tracks, 45 minutes, it balances having slower tempos and absolute pop bangers without any filler. I personally ended up liking Happier Than Ever, but I lamented at its uneven nature. Hit Me Hard and Soft takes everything I love about that record and evolves it. In this video, I'm going to briefly talk about the lead up to this record, each track, and then I'm going to assign it a final score. But before I talk about the album, let's do a previously on. Billie Eilish is an industry darling. I constantly mention how she's the youngest artist to sweep the big four at the Grammys. I believe that she's the realized potential of the alt pop girl genre that Lana Del Rey shepherded back in the early 2010s. Something that she has said during her cameo at Lana's Coachella set earlier this year. I think that Eilish is in her own class as an artist, 9 Grammys, 2 Oscars. She's just 22 years old, so the expectations are always going to be high. Her most recent smash was What Was I Made For Barbie, which took home Song of the Year at the Grammys, as well as the Best Original Song at the Oscars. That was the film's only Oscar win, and I thought that it was the emotional centerpiece of the movie. What Was I Made For is actually a perfect preview for this record, highlighting Billie's self-awareness and search for self. Work on BE3 started all the way in December 2022. In December 2023, she'd say that the record was just about done. This past April, Billie announced Hit Me Hard and Soft. The promo has been relatively minimal, aside from some teasers in Fortnite and for Heartstopper. It is said that Lunch is the lead single based on playlisting. The record's already critically acclaimed with a killer Metacritic score, and it might be my personal AOTY, but I do want to give it some time to breathe. Let's get into some general thoughts. This album, like the others, was written just by Billie and Phineas, who remain at the top of their game. Phineas's production is varied, rich, and tight. Billie remains candid, elegant, and sharp with her lyrics. I thought that the album's cover art was perfect in the context of the record. Each track feels like sinking deeper into depths unknown. Thematically speaking, this is a heartbreak record intermingled with Eilish's own journey in accepting her bisexuality. Eilish made waves earlier last year when she alluded to her attraction to women, and later was more or less outed by the media. A now infamous interview with Rolling Stone discussed Lunch, a highlight off this record, and how that song explores her more sapphic side and how she wanted her face in a vagina. Hit Me Hard and Soft's a confessional, intimate record that tracks a love that forces her to reflect inwards and re-examine her identity inside out. I really like the record's focus on duality. Many of the songs play off Happier Than Ever's dual song structure with some mid-song shifts. Here it never feels like a gimmick because Billie makes each part 2 feel like a re-examination of the first part on a lyrical level. Many of the songs interplay with each other as the record comes to a close. It's varied, cohesive, there's no filler. I cannot name a single track that annoys me or I'd cut. Coming into the record, I expected to want more, and some fans have a theory about a double record, but this record is perfectly fine as a standalone, even if it ends with a question, but when can I hear the next one? A real question, because she only seems to improve. That is something that not many artists can say with their whole chest. My final observation is that this is a headphones record. There are many production elements that I only caught on my headphones listen. You can dance to this on speakers, but the late night listen will have you gag. And now it's time for the track by track. The record starts with Skinny, which feels like a sequel to What Was I Made For, even on a melodic level. The first verse references where we left her last. People say I look happy just because I got skinny, calls back to Overheated, but she says she loved how she looked before and how that's the real her. Verse 2 talks about how she's gone quiet since her quote-unquote flop era, yet they keep on calling her back. I think that the bridge is aimed more at her audience, and then we get this sweeping, beautiful orchestral outro that feels like a proper goodbye to the past. It seamlessly carries us to Lunch, which feels like a novel new sound that blends some of Billie's previous playful sounds into something more fresh. The splashy guitar and the bass line carry the song as she talks about how she could eat that girl for lunch and how she just can't get enough. The lines about keeping it under Claire speak to her keeping it under lock and key like NDA. Verse 1 continues the food metaphor, but verse 2 is the more quotable one. Lines like "you need a seat, I'll volunteer," or "she's the headlights, I'm the deer," those are gonna be caption-worthy candid snippets. This one's the radio-friendly track and still bravely queer. I love the contrast between the soft piano hits and the hard guitar riffs towards the end of the song. The bridge talking about how she knows how to bend is a neat double entendre, while the outro's breakdown where she uses her breaths and the vocal chops, that's what makes this a pop masterpiece. Chihiro is one of my personal favorites. The line is a direct reference to Spirited Away's Heroine. It's a mystical, hypnotic, sultry track that pays tribute to the film. Sonically, it evokes the shadowy natures of the plot. Lyrically, she references the plot itself, which centers around a girl whose name was taken from her. In the song, however, her love was taken away from her. Verse Verse 2's line about turning around and not seeing a face felt like a nod to the faceless character in the film, or perhaps the part where she sees her parents as pigs. The chorus is so opaque in a way that makes you wonder how Billie kind of relates to this plot. Phineas's production on this is next level, the layered synths and the ability to kind of channel the chaos of that film's aesthetic is masterful. Open up the door, can you open up the door is an important line. It has this nice childlike intonation and a fear to it. Again, it's her ability to channel emotions through her voice that's unmatched. It feels like someone facing their fears, and the ambiguous ending makes it a repeat. Birds of a Feather is one of the most romantic tracks I've heard this decade. I instantly fell in love with it. It's one of those tracks that capture a love that lasts forever. The production is simple yet poignant. Eilish's vocals soar ethereally. The little synth vocal throughout is a hook. There's a motif in there about turning blue and how that color comes to represent who she is at her core. Birds of a feather is a common saying. She says that people who are similar belong together. She's aware that this might not be forever, but she does not mind. The pre-chorus is one of my favorites because it winds the song down and it lets her soak in the sadness before admitting that she loves them till she dies. Verse 2 gives the song some grit because she calls out her lover on their shit, thinking that this is a bit. It adds some sadness to the song, but she still continues. The final chorus, layering the refrain, hit me really hard. The final line's about knowing them in another life and how they still had that look in their eye. I love you, don't act so surprised. I felt like that was built up to pretty well. No wonder Heartstopper used this song. This is rom-com gold. Which makes it insane that Wildflower is the next track because it's this crushing acoustic ballad. This one's about the complex feelings of inadequacy and insecurity that come from a relationship that's kind of haunted by a partner's ex. It's about cross boundaries and how hard it is to compete with a ghost. It's insane that at some point she was actually friends with her lover's ex and then had to comfort her. The chorus evokes this imagery of being haunted and burned just like the ex. She draws a sharp contrast between her and the ex with that happy and free in leather line. The outro itself confirms how doomed they are as she shifts the sound to a more ghostly, haunting sound to confirm that the relationship is dead. It's a clever production detail that does add to the story. The greatest is the Happier Than Ever of the record. It's a song about justified anger at being in this half-assed relationship. She sings about all the effort that she's put forth and how her ex made her feel unworthy and foolish to even try to save it. The way that she sings the chorus, "Man, am I the greatest," it's sung with this resigned sarcasm. As she continues to list the good traits, you hear the resentment build. The second chorus has this build to it that explodes into this rock infusion that again works off the patience of the listener. The bridge is the soaring moment where she finally detonates and just admits that she loved them and she wanted passion and love, but then she caps it off with this calm and confident final chorus where she admits that she just hates it all. They could have been the greatest, but they had been so jaded. She's done. Again, the use of duality and conscientious voicing is proof that she intuitively is the greatest at this. I'm not French, so I'm gonna butcher this. L'amour de ma vie is probably my favorite right now. It's another two-parter. The first half has this cool jazzy vibe that Billie Bossa Nova had. In the first half, she pretty much roasts her ex to perfection. The chorus is the perfect level of petty. She wishes him the best, but she's lied. He's not the love of her life. I just find it funny that love of my life is a phrase that's been used in pop recently. Verse 2 brings up that he's already moved on. It's not her fault. She tried. Before that bridge takes us home, she realizes that she was the love of his life, but he was not hers. And then she wraps it up with another refrain. Then the "You Moved On" kind of shifts the song to this blinding lights 80s-like synth jam. Part 2 has me convinced that Billie could be a synth pop legend if she tried. She just sounds effortless and amazing on here. The confidence that she has through the vocoder, it's really dazzling, and it makes it clear that her ex was just using her and it's really over. The Diner most resembles her debut record production-wise. This is a really dark, smoky track that obscures Billie's vocals behind this harsh electronic synthy glow. The lyrics are from the perspective of a stalker who's obsessed with her. She's exploring this new point of view that really wants to possess her. Bet I could change your life, you could be my wife. This character is crazy. They've already been sent to jail. The diner is a place where they expect to find their ex and get them back. They've written letters and the cops are out to get them. They've left their calling card. The song ends with them saying that they still have their number and that if something happens to their ex's new lover, it was definitely them, before ending with a phone number. If you call the number, you can hear Billie say that she can't hear them, but she'll call them back. Bittersweet is a production-focused two-parter. The title feels like a reference to bittersweet feelings, with sweet being changed to mean the musical version of the word. A musical suite is a group of self-contained instrumentals that vary but live in the same key. The first half is a synthy, ocean-like murky song about being wary about a love that she's dreaming of but knows cannot be. The second's a more chill track anchored by steady synths and repetitive murmurs. This one feels more dreamlike, but definitely more like sleep paralysis. She goes on to recap some of the record, like The Suite, The Diner, L'amour de ma vie, and Chihiro with the opening of the door. There's a soft-spoken outro I could barely hear. The final piece of the song is a synthy setup for the finale. The closer of the album, Blue, is yet another two-parter. The first half is what some fans consider Born Blue, a track that was actually teased many years ago. Blue again is the color that Billie most associates with herself. This was sort of the track that woke me up to how she resembles Lana Del Rey the most. There was a moment where I pulled back to hear how at least this half of the song feels like something from Ultraviolence by way of Billie Eilish. The chorus admits that she's coming to terms with herself, but she's just not over her ex yet. The verse in this half touches on every track aside from Diner, because I believe that's told from a persona. A bird in a cage, thought you were made for me wraps up the metaphor that she set up. Part 2 is the final crushing acceptance that she needs. She paints why her ex is broken in the verses, but the chorus admits that she cannot change or save her ex. The bridge sets up this cool repeating couplet about how she only sleeps 3 hours. It's robotic, deep, and unique. The way it's sung speaks to how exhausted and sleep deprived she must be. It's Over Now is brought back from L'amour de ma vie just to show that she's finally accepted the end before a beautiful orchestral arrangement closes the record out. Her jokey When Can I Hear the Next One teases more on the way, if not soon, at least less than 3 years from now. Conclusively, this record is one of my personal favorites in a year that has given us Cowboy Carter, Tortured Poet, Deeper Well, and Eternal Sunshine. I'd say what does make this one feel a bit different is how curated it is. It remains experimental and honest without overstaying its welcome or taking too much time. Not to discount those brilliant records, mind you. But for those who have listened to me for a long time, you know that I'm a sucker for clean, short track listings that just work. Not a second of this album is wasted. And just for that alone, I have to award it this year's first 10 out of 10 record. Someone pop out the confetti. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in to this Billie Eilish review. I have not covered her before on my channel. I'd always intended to make a video about her, but I always got cut off. Normally when she released, I was on a hiatus. But I'm glad to be here, and if you guys are going to the December 16th show, I will be at the pit. So if you see me there, you see me there. A quick shout out to my members. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. A quick shout out to subscribers. Thank you so much. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, comment below what your favorite track from Hit Me Hard and Soft was. I'm personally hoping for my own mental health that there isn't a second half to the album, but if she does have a double album, I am ready for it. See you next video.